Welcome to the Power of the Innovation Mindset. Today, we have the pleasure and honor to be speaking with Michele Gay. Michele is the co-founder of LiLive by Alcone, and I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Michele for the first time last year when we were on a panel together sponsored by the New York Institute of Technology, and that was around the launch of my book, The Innovation Mindset. And Michele was a fabulous guest who shared all of her experiences and insights around being a female entrepreneur, founder, and someone who's really just grown a company with her team to tremendous success. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that today. So really excited that we have Michele with us today. Again, co-founder of LiLive by Alcone, but she's done so much more than that. I was particularly intrigued, Michele, as someone who spent my career in the healthcare field, that your undergraduate degree was in microbiology. So that was a lot of fun, but maybe not too far afield since you have spent a good part of your career in skincare and cosmetics. So I would imagine that your microbiology background came in somewhat helpful. But let me turn it over to you, and if you could introduce yourself with a little bit more detail to our audience today.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Lorraine, it was such a great honor to meet you at our panel. And when I got your book and I read your book, it was so great because it literally is my experience. So when people say to me, how do you do this? How do you build a business? You know, I'm like, just read Lorraine's book. Like, it literally is the blueprint of how to build a successful business. So it was a real honor to meet you. And yes, I mean, I kind of am an accidental entrepreneur. My family business is in beauty, and I grew up around this family business. And I became the president of our makeup company, and that's Alcone, and it distributes professional makeup to pro makeup artists around the world. So I had access to this kind of unique subset of the beauty sector. You know, it's not something you can get in a Sephora or anywhere in a consumer market. So it was kind of niche. And we thought, what if we brought this to the consumer? But actually, that wasn't our first question. Our first question was around community. So, you know, to dive right into the experience of you know, what happened is as I became president, I thought, you know what, we have been able to stay alive for decades. I mean, we're closing in on almost a century of my family's business. And how are we able to do that when all these little shops like my family's gets gobbled up by bigger brands? And the answer is our pro makeup artists. They have kept us alive. They've paid a little bit more to keep us afloat when that was necessary, you know, and we try to do a lot around community. But really, we are a family with our customers. And so the question we asked ourselves is, okay, how do we support this community who has supported us for decades, right? And the answer came in a few businesses. We had something we called Alcone Agency, which was a website we built where people could showcase their work, and anyone looking for a pro makeup artist could go and look at their work. That was number one answer to the question of community. Number two was to do a pro makeup discount for them. So anyone who is a great customer of ours getting that VIP discount, which a lot of people do now, that's just very mainstream. But at the time, it was really on the cutting edge. We're talking over a decade ago. And then the third thing was this idea of allowing them to retail some of the products that they use all the time on their clients to have additional revenue streams. And every time we looked at how to make that happen, we started out creating a direct sales company. And I'm like, no, we can't do a direct sales company. People don't like those. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, this is absolutely what we should be doing. So that's how our business was born. And it was such a solid idea that when we launched in 2015, by 2018, we had already broken, or were about to break, the 100 million in sales. And we had partnered with one of the largest international beauty brands in the world, L'Occitane, en Provence. So that was, in 3 years, we accomplished that. And then we launched in our 4th year, we were in 10 different markets around the world. So for those 4 years of my life, I think I blacked out. I don't think I was conscious. It was just a workaholic like stream. I mean, it was just a stream of caffeine and adrenaline and problems galore and laughter, but really a ton of it. But during that time, and I think the key is to understand, not that it was really easy and successful, because we had a lot of operational problems and all that. During that time, we were able to build a significant community that became not just the LimeLife by Alcone sales field, but our customer base and the people who advocated for us. So, that was my journey. And now I look at brands who are trying to amplify their impact, who are trying to get to the next level. And I do a lot of I have a lot of meetings with female entrepreneurs who want to know, can you take a look at this and tell me what I can be doing? And honestly, the common answer is you need to spend a little bit of time every single day building a community.
Michele, and so this idea of community, and particularly the timing, right? We're going into 4th quarter here. Actually, we're in 4th quarter. So being able to think about what are your growth plans for 2024. And so what we really want to share with the audience is, what is community building? Maybe you could break it down, give us not exactly a textbook definition, but what is that? What does that mean? I think we want to understand, can we do that B2B, B2C? So would love to have you help us unpack what is community building for a brand in a growth scenario.
Yeah. So, to answer that question, it's about authenticity. It starts with authenticity. What are you about? What is your brand about? What are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What are you about? And believe it or not, if you're a smaller business who's just emerging, you actually have an advantage, because when you do get bigger as a brand, consumers start to see your authenticity shrivel a little bit. So they like to support the smaller emerging entrepreneur. So that's the mindset of the consumers right now. So the question is, what are you about? And then from there, you need to start thinking about, how do you build layers around a central authenticity of your brand? Okay, so I'll give you an example. There's a company called Farm Girl Flowers, right? And what's interesting about this is, oftentimes the community starts getting built not around something phenomenal that happened, but actually something very difficult that happened for the brand. So she's an entrepreneur, has been working her little tail off. LimeLife supports them. All flowers we send, we do through them. And so she was part of one of the banks that went under, and no one could transact on her site. So what she did is she wrote a very raw, vulnerable email to every single customer who has ever ordered from her. And this got shared far and wide. And it was basically it wasn't just thank you for your support. That is so bland, it never hits. But it was I'm angry. And here's why I'm angry. Because I haven't paid myself, and I should have, because this is happening. And and it was not a hostile thing. It was so raw, but there was such love and intention underneath it. And that is where she started getting this concept, this basis of community being built. So that's an example of how this can come out of an authentic sort of raw moment. But there's also the idea of very intentional community. And one of the things that founders need to do, entrepreneurs need to do, is they need to get out there and go live all of the time. When they're in the warehouse, when they're driving, when something cool happened, when something awful happened, they need to actually share their journey. I mean, look at all the documentaries that are coming out now for all different brands and individuals. And these documentaries actually are important because they show the raw and real journey of the brand. I just finished watching the Beckham, documentary. And at the end, it was like, aha, okay, he just started a professional, soccer club in Miami. So this is him building the community. He's got all these people supporting him now in his journey in getting this launched.
Yeah. Now, Michele, when you use the word community, is that only customers or does it include other stakeholders? And if you think about like a two-way commitment, what is your commitment or one's commitment to the community? Maybe in the case of Limelight, what was your commitment to the community? And then what's the community's commitment to you? What kind of expectations do you need to have? Because this sounds like you said a kind of a personal relationship, very authentic kind of relationship. So it seems as though there's got to be some commitments that have to be expressed.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So it can be B2C and it can be B2B. I mean, it really depends on what it is you're trying to accomplish. I was helping this woman who makes her own beauty products, and she makes an amazing sun care product. And we were talking about how she needs to build community. And really what that meant for her was loading up her car with as much product as she could and driving around and going to every surf shop that she possibly could up and down the coast, meeting with every owner of every surf shop, telling them her story, telling them how she made this, after her husband went to Costa Rica and she made it, in her kitchen, and she makes it in small batches. Like, all of those storytelling is so important, because then she goes in there and her product has prime space at the POS, right? So she's building community that way, but she's also going to do it B2C through her social media channels, by going live all the time, driving up and down the coast and talking about what she's doing. And that's a good example of how someone can take their business to the next level. I mean, it was interesting because I was coaching her and I was coaching another woman at the same time. Now, this other woman, her sales were like 20 times the original woman, but her only distributor was Sephora. And I thought to myself, well, what happens if at some point Sephora decides that you're not it anymore and they return all your product? You have no community, you have no foundation, you don't even own the customer, you don't have anyone's email addresses. And so both of them, when they were talking about capital raises, I'm going, I would invest in this one. I would definitely not invest in this one, even though her financials looked amazing. So one of the things that we look at when we look at the value of a company, right? We look at their balance sheet. Nowhere on a balance sheet does it talk about community. Nowhere on a balance sheet does it talk about the investment of community, right? I mean, obviously the biggest form of community that we are seeing right now is Taylor Swift. The Swifties are a community. They come out in full force to support her in absolutely everything she does. And what's so fascinating to me is my daughter, who is like the truest form of a Swiftie. If you ask her a question about something like that and she does not think it aligns with Taylor Swift's positive, empowering mindset, she won't even answer it. I mean, they are diehards, right? So $100 million in the box office after paying thousands of dollars for tickets, this is unprecedented, but it is community.
Yeah. Well, now we get to see her at the Kansas City games in the stand with her boyfriend, Kelsey. We all know who she is. We all know who she's rooting for.
I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, and I have been a Chiefs fan for years. So my algorithm, and a Travis Kelce fan and Patrick Mahomes fan for years. So my algorithm on social media basically exploded because it was like everything I liked happening now.
I hit all the buttons. But you make an interesting point about investors in the balance sheet and why, while community might not be captured on the balance sheet, certainly customer share of voice, customer stickiness is, because customers are what drive your growth. And so if community is the best way that you can drive customer growth, then obviously it's good for business. And it sounds as though too, that there's an opportunity to do some risk mitigation, because if you're that close to your customer, you do have their email addresses, you have an ability to communicate with them personally, then if a couple big channel partners change their mind or don't work out, you're not left with nothing. So I definitely like the risk mitigation aspect of this
Yeah.
community. I will say though, and I was wondering if maybe some of our audience is thinking this too. It sounds like a lot of work, driving up and down the coast, going into all the surf shops, telling your story. I guess, how much work is it in exchange for the ROI? So maybe you can talk with us a little bit about what are the metrics, what does success look like, and how much is enough? So maybe talk a little
Yeah.
bit about implementation and then just the metrics of this.
Yeah, no, that's really an important thing you're saying there. And let me just, I want to go back to something you said, because you say in the balance sheet there is evidence of it. What the balance sheet is showing is a result of potentially your community, right? Like referral links, how much is that? Like how many sales are coming from referral links or stuff like that? Like what that's talking about is a result. And people want the result to happen so quickly that they forget the foundational building that needs to happen. And as you said, Lorraine, it is a lot of work. It is a ton of work, but it is absolutely essential, in my opinion, for a brand to do that work right now. There is so much noise in the marketplace. There are brands popping up left, right, and center for absolutely everything. And someone can take your idea pretty quickly, put marketing on it, and brush you out of the way. But they can't do that if you are standing so firmly in the ground with your community. So a lot of brands want to sort of dismiss it because it is a lot of work, and we're constantly looking about actions that are going to give us that immediate effect, that immediate ROI, especially if you're short on cash. You need to see the result. And that's why I always say it should be a portion of the time that you spend should be on community. It shouldn't be absolutely everything you do, but it should be a portion of what you do, because a lot of times your day gets away from you and your week gets away from you and your month gets away from you and you haven't gone live and all of that, right? Like that's not good. It has to be a constant conversation. And actually where our community became the strongest, and this is going to get back to another question you asked me about LimeLife and their experience. The community became the strongest because we had no inventory. We weren't shipping things out on time. We were not even shipping them out correctly. So I was going live on our corporate Facebook page in the warehouse, 9 o'clock at night, in my sweatpants, saying, we are doing absolutely everything we can to get your order out. We cannot believe you have made LimeLife a huge success. And everyone in the chat, exploding the chat, like, don't worry about it. It's worth the wait. We've got this. Like, we've got you. These are customers. These are, I've never even met them, but their sales field brought them in. Like, so this was huge for us, because then when they got their makeup and they were talking with their friends, they were saying, oh yeah, it took a long time to get this. The founder kept going on and really, the founder kept going on. That's weird. Yeah, she was in the warehouse. Now you've become someone who's cutting through that with your authenticity of who you are. You create that personal experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think that to give this another angle, because I'm going to ask you for some more examples, but I've spent time in the pharma industry working with the rare disease community. And I think that would be my metaphor for another type of sector, which is in the rare disease community. Pharma companies have really had to understand every patient. You could be talking about a condition where there's 300, 500, 5,000 patients. You really have to know every patient, every caregiver, all of the family members, what the needs are. And it's a very similar model. You know, sometimes it's around sending your field force or medical affairs out in order to have conversations with every customer out there, because you have to be that close to them in order to make sure that you know where they are. You can get the message about the therapeutic to them, and you can get a drug to a patient in need. So that would be my own experience with this. And I would say that companies are absolutely willing to make that investment. In fact, they know they have to make that investment. They're just not going to be successful in the rare disease drug community if they don't really know those customers and have that same kind of relationship. I mean, obviously there are regulatory aspects of that and legal aspects of that that don't make it quite as easy to stand in the warehouse and communicate with everybody about a shortage.
Yeah.
But sans that, there is an opportunity to communicate. Can you maybe cite some brands other than your own and Taylor Swift that you do this particularly well? And then I'll just ask you on the flip side, have you seen any brands where there's just a missed opportunity, not to put you on the spot, but maybe a brand that's gone by the wayside or one that could be doing more with its community, but it doesn't seem to have figured, they haven't listened to your podcast, so they don't know about it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably cite a million brands that do this super, super well. For me, the ones that do it really well are the most authentic versions of themselves. The ones that are kind of like the silliest and it doesn't have to be small brands. I mean, a brand like Once Upon a Farm, Jennifer Garner's brand, is really brilliant in the way that she really does create this engagement with her silliness, and overall, and people are like, well, she's a celebrity, but honestly, anyone can become an influencer celebrity. um so she'd be a really good example, I think, of someone who doesn't take herself too seriously, but you know what her mission is, you're very clear on it, and she builds a very strong community around the mission of fresh food for babies. Like, it's targeted, it's clear, she knows who she is, she knows what she's doing. Now, one thing to note, I think, is really important if you're just starting out on this,
Mhm.
is people are often like, well, the algorithms for Facebook and Instagram are constantly changing. But the truth of the matter is, yes, they change, but they always change for authentic community building. So, like, things that people will coach on, like, oh, this is an authentic, like, hack for getting your community or getting yourself boosted on social media. Like, an example might be where you say to someone, hey, we're coming out with a new lipstick color, and we want to come up with names for this new lipstick color. Got any ideas for names? Like, you're literally having the community name a shade of lipstick. They're on that. So every comment that they're making and every like is community engagement, and it's a way to boost your algorithm.
Mhm.
But if you go out there and you buy followers and you start buying community, that actually negates you in Facebook and Instagram. So you have to be, that they're saying we're going to hurt people who are not authentically building community.
Mhm.
Um, then in terms of brands that I think could do this better, honestly, every brand that has seen success, and I'm including Lime Life in that because I think there's always opportunity for more, but like specifically every brand that has seen success in retail environments, not their own retail environments as a distribution, needs to do this. Um, when we first started out, it was like products are important. You need to have a unique product proposition, right? And then it was like, okay, your product is important, but you also have to have amazing branding. You need to have cohesive, clear branding where if you're clear, the customer will trust you, right? And then the third piece of this now is community. So if you just have been successful with this great product and this great brand, and you think, well, let's just keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep sending the same marketing emails. We're going to give coupon codes when we need to boost sales. We're going to pull out all the tricks when we need to, and we're going to pull from the same playbook. You're going to struggle in 2024
Mhm.
because it's the companies that actually are creating community that are going to actually get in there and create the transaction.
Yeah, so we've got a question, Michele, in terms of how to get started. I mean, especially I think it can be really daunting. We all talk about the network effect and multipliers and amplifying your brand, but what's the most efficient way to get started, and how do you really do some things that help to mushroom and get the word out among your own customers? What's the most rapid acceleration or expansion of this that you can think of?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is don't focus on the result, focus on the action. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I would post something and be like, I'm going to be at this hotel lobby and I want to tell you about Lime Life and I want to tell you about what we're doing and how we're empowering female entrepreneurs, and nobody would show up. I mean, like event after event after event, and you're like, oh, I'm wasting my time. But you're not wasting your time because every single one of those events shows your community that you're serious. You don't quit on that first one. You're keeping going because you believe this so, so strongly. And actually, I use that example because when I would get into a room full of people, I would then tell them that. Like, I have been in rooms of people where like I've had one person, but I believe so strongly in this that I keep going. Like, everything is an opportunity for you to connect deeper with your community. And here's the good news to the person who asked the question. The more polished you become in your presentation to your community, the less effective you are.
Mm.
So if you feel like you need to have everything perfect and lighting and la la la, like, you are not going to be as effective. I'm going to give you an example of that. Jennifer Lopez started a beauty brand. She could hire anybody, like any studio. She could have a dance troupe behind her, whatever. Sky's the limit. She chose bathrobe, raw face, light, kids in the background as her way to build community when she launched JLo Beauty.
Mm.
Because she's smart and she knows that seeing the authentic JLo is what people are going to connect with, not the JLo that's, got everything done up for her, right? Like, that's part of her personal brand. So be raw, be real, but come up with a plan and commit to it. And you have to going live every single day on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Go live, be relentless in the community you're building, but give them a call to action.
Mm.
And that call to action should be based in gratitude, always in gratitude. Like, here's what I'm doing, and I just want to thank you for being part of this, right?
Mm.
You're not asking them, you're giving them like the thank you for being part of this community. So that when you do go for a real ask, an authentic ask, they're ready and they're like, what can we do to help this mission? What is it you want me to do? Right? So that's key. Absolutely key.
That's a really interesting point. I think that you're probably giving us all something to think about, in particular, just that vulnerability and the realness that we bring to something, and being very, I guess, natural and in the moment when you're communicating, and the idea of gratitude. I think those are some really valuable nuggets. Where would you say are resources I mean, you kind of stumbled on this, and then because you're very creative and you know how to pivot and you're entrepreneurial, you were able to work it through and turn it into something. But again, maybe if someone's not as experimental as you, but they'd like to know a little bit more about where to go for some resources to think about how to apply this community building and brand amplification in their industry, do you have any resources that you can recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there are consultants. I actually just reached out to a consultant today because I'm going to be having the same discussion at a business school class at Columbia. So I wanted to know if she had any messages, and you can reach her at jenny.community. And she literally is an expert on building community. She works with some of the biggest brands on how to create community. But I actually think you could do this yourself. And I think the way that you do this yourself is you actually ask your friends, what are the brands that speak to you? Or you put that out there on your social media feed. What are the brands that really you feel like you know them? Like,
Mhm.
you have your heart just loves them, and see what answers you get, and start to look at those individuals, feeds, and see what are they doing. How have they set up their customer communication? What's their email confirmation message? Is there a picture or video on there?
Mhm.
What's their vibe?
Mhm.
And I think that's how you can start doing this, because when you ask your own community, you're going to be getting examples of what this community feeds on. So it allow you to get a better, understanding of where you could start. But the real thing is start, and don't be upset if only one person comes to your Facebook Live. Doesn't matter. Don't be upset if literally nobody comments on one of your posts. Doesn't matter. We all start at zero. So 0 is the baseline, and you just go up from there. Relentlessly, you go up from there, and you will go up.
Yeah, no, those are good points. Now, I know you're going to be speaking at CBS soon in a marketing class, I believe it is. But Jenny, is it
.community.
JennyNY.community.com?
No, it's just .community. That's
Oh,
you'll see there.
Jenny.community. That's her handle. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Michelle, so that's great. Thank you for sharing that. That consultant might get a few if you
Yeah.
out
I
of
never, in full disclosure, I just was like, I need to meet you because I keep telling everyone to go to you, and I've
this.
never met you, but
Oh,
I've heard great things about her.
interesting. And of course, you're an expert as well. And what would be the best way for people to reach out to you? Tell us a little bit about your handles on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Where can
Oh
people
gosh,
find you?
it's like tumbleweed. I retired, as you know, Lorraine, in May, and the gift I gave myself is for 1 year I'm saying no to everything and I'm removing myself from social media. I'm trying to find that space of creativity again of what is my next step. So, but you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you do email me, it does go directly to me. So I'd be happy to discuss anything there.
All
So
right. Well, we appreciate that you came out of retirement for 30 minutes this afternoon to avail us of your knowledge and insight. That was very kind of you. Now we're going to let you go back into
my
retirement.
husband said, I thought you were saying no to everything. What do you have a call with? I said, I can't say no to Lorraine. She's too brilliant.
Well, anyway, this was fun. And I know that you've helped some folks. You certainly helped me this afternoon. So always a pleasure, Michele. And we'll look forward to connecting again and hearing more about this when you're ready to come out more fully once your retirement is getting old and tiresome.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks
Bye.
everybody for joining. We enjoyed having you.